Elias once lived a life many dreamed of. He had a good job, a role that brought him respect. His days were ordered, his future seemed clear. He believed in the promises of hard work and dedication. His apartment was warm, a sanctuary from the world's uncertainties. He often smiled, a genuine smile that reflected his inner peace. The city buzzed around him, a symphony of opportunities. He felt like a vital part of this grand orchestra. He did not know that a dissonant chord was about to be struck, altering his entire melody. He worked as a skilled graphic designer. His creations were vibrant, full of life and color. Companies sought his talent to bring their visions to light. He loved the challenge of his work, the way ideas transformed into tangible beauty. This passion fueled his days and filled his bank account. He could afford small luxuries, dinners with friends and weekend trips. He felt secure in his abilities, in the value he provided. He thought this security was a fortress, impenetrable and strong. But even the strongest fortresses can be shaken by unexpected tremors. His routine was a comfortable rhythm. Morning coffee, the commute to a bright office, hours spent shaping pixels and perspectives. He interacted with clients, collaborated with colleagues, and felt a sense of belonging. He believed he understood the rules of the game, the unspoken agreements of society. He planned for a future that seemed like a straight line, progressing steadily upwards. This illusion of control was a gentle blanket, soon to be ripped away. The universe often has plans far different from our own carefully drawn blueprints. Money was a steady companion, not a source of worry. It flowed in, a predictable tide, allowing him to live well. He saved a portion, invested another, and spent wisely. He felt he was a responsible navigator of his financial seas. He never imagined a storm so fierce it could capsize his well-maintained vessel. Life, he thought, rewarded those who were prudent and diligent. He was about to learn that life's lessons are often delivered in the most unexpected and challenging ways, forcing us to find strength we never knew we possessed. The news came like a sudden winter storm. The company was downsizing, a word that sounded cold and impersonal. Elias lost his job. The foundation of his secure world crumbled beneath his feet. He walked out of the office, a box in his hands, his heart heavy. The city, once a place of promise, now seemed indifferent to his plight. His skills, once celebrated, felt instantly devalued. He tried to remain calm, telling himself it was temporary, a small setback. But deep inside, a seed of fear began to sprout, its roots reaching into his very core. His savings, once a comforting buffer, began to dwindle rapidly. Rent, bills, food. The demands of life did not pause for his misfortune. He applied for new jobs, sending out his resume with a hopeful heart. Rejections came, or worse, silence. Each day the city's noise seemed louder, more jarring. His apartment, once a sanctuary, became a reminder of what he was losing. The walls seemed to close in on him. The vibrant colors he once created for others now seemed to mock his own graying world. He felt the world spinning faster, and he was losing his grip. The eviction notice was the final blow. His landlord was kind but firm. Elias had no more money for rent. He packed his few remaining possessions into his old car. The car, once a symbol of freedom, became his only shelter. He drove away from his apartment, leaving behind a life that no longer existed. The shame was a heavy cloak suffocating him. He felt invisible to the world, a ghost drifting through the bustling streets. He did not know where to go or what to do next. The path ahead was shrouded in a terrifying fog. Homelessness was a harsh teacher. The first night in his car was cold and terrifying. Every sound made him jump. He parked in dark corners, hoping not to be noticed. He missed his warm bed, the comfort of his home. He missed the simple dignity of a hot shower. The world he once knew, a world of comfort and routine, felt like a distant dream. He was now an outsider, looking in at the lives of others. This new reality was a brutal awakening, stripping away all pretense and forcing him to confront his deepest fears and vulnerabilities. Days blurred into a monotonous cycle of survival. Finding a safe place to park his car each night was a constant anxiety. Public restrooms became his only option for hygiene. Hunger was a gnawing companion, a constant reminder of his desperate situation. He ate cheap food, often just enough to silence the ache in his stomach. The car, his reluctant home, offered little comfort. It was cramped, cold in the winter and stiflingly hot in the summer. The windows would fog with his breath, obscuring the outside world, mirroring the fog in his mind. He watched people pass by, living their normal lives. They rushed to work, laughed with friends, held hands with loved ones. He felt a profound sense of isolation, an invisible wall separating him from them. Shame was a constant shadow, making him avoid eye contact. He felt like a failure, a burden. The vibrant city he once loved now seemed like a cruel landscape of haves and have-nots. His dreams, once so bright and ambitious, seemed to have withered and died within the confines of his metallic prison. Sometimes despair would wash over him like a tidal wave. He would sit in his car and weep, tears of frustration and hopelessness. What was the point of it all? Had he done something wrong to deserve this fate? He questioned every decision he had ever made. The loneliness was a crushing weight. There was no one to talk to, no one to share his burden with. The silence in the car was broken only by the sounds of the city or the occasional whisper of his own disheartened thoughts. He felt utterly and completely alone in his struggle. Yet even in the depths of his misery, a tiny spark of defiance flickered. He remembered the stories his grandmother used to tell, stories of resilience, of people who faced great hardship and emerged stronger. He remembered her saying, "The darkest night will end and the sun will rise." These memories were like small, warm embers in the cold darkness of his car. They offered a sliver of hope, a suggestion that perhaps this was not the end of his story. Perhaps it was merely a difficult chapter, a test he had to endure. One cold morning, Elias woke with a clarity he hadn't felt in months. The sun was just beginning to rise, painting the sky with soft hues of pink and orange. He watched it through the dusty windshield of his car. He saw the beauty, a stark contrast to his grim reality. In that moment, something shifted within him. He was tired of being a victim. He was tired of the shame, the hunger, the cold. He realized that no one was coming to save him. If his life was to change, he had to be the one to change it. He looked at his reflection in the rearview mirror. His eyes were tired, his face gaunt. But behind the weariness he saw a flicker of his old self, the determined spirit that had once designed beautiful things. He decided then and there that his current circumstances would not define him. This hardship, this pain, would become the fuel for his transformation. He would not let his spirit be crushed by the weight of his car, his homelessness. He would find a way to rise again, stronger and wiser than before. The decision was like a key turning in a long-locked door. A surge of energy, almost forgotten, coursed through him. He knew the path would be difficult. He had no money, no home, no immediate prospects, but he had something more valuable, a renewed sense of purpose. He would fight for his future. He would reclaim his dignity. He would not just survive, he would thrive. This was not merely a wish, it was a solemn vow he made to himself, a promise whispered to the rising sun. His first act was to clean himself up as best he could at a public facility. He then walked to the local library. It was warm, quiet, and full of resources. He realized the library could be his sanctuary, his university. Books held knowledge, and knowledge was power. He could learn new skills, explore new ideas. The internet offered a gateway to a world of information. For the first time in a long time, a genuine sense of hope began to blossom in his heart. The journey would be long, but he had taken the first, most important step. Elias spent his days at the library. It became his office, his classroom, his haven. He devoured books on business, on technology, on personal development. He learned about online marketing, coding, and financial management. The world of digital skills opened up before him, a realm where location mattered less than knowledge and determination. He took copious notes, his old designer's hand now sketching out plans for a new kind of life. He was building something new, not with bricks and mortar, but with information and grit. He used the library's computers to access free online courses. He studied with an intensity he hadn't known since his early days as a designer. Each new concept learned, each new skill acquired, felt like a small victory. It was a slow process, demanding patience and discipline. There were days when frustration gnawed at him, when the enormity of his task seemed overwhelming, but he would look out the library window, see the world moving on, and remind himself of his vow. He was forging a new self, piece by piece, in the quiet intensity of his studies. He discovered a hidden talent for coding. The logic, the problem-solving, it resonated with the part of him that once loved designing intricate structures. He found a strange joy in creating lines of code that brought websites to life or made applications function. It was a new form of creation, a new way to build. He practiced relentlessly, often staying at the library until closing time. Then he would return to his car, his mind buzzing with new ideas, his fingers itching to type more code, to solve more puzzles. The librarians noticed his quiet diligence. Some offered words of encouragement, a kind smile, or pointed him towards useful resources. These small acts of kindness were like beacons of light on his solitary journey. He learned to live on very little, saving every spare coin for a coffee or a slightly better meal. His focus was singular: to learn, to grow, to prepare himself for the opportunities he was determined to create. He was no longer just surviving. He was actively building the foundation for his future success. The sacred silence of transformation. Elias made a crucial decision. He knew he needed uninterrupted focus. The daily struggle of finding food, a safe place to sleep, and fighting despair was draining his energy. He needed to disappear from the world for a while, to dedicate himself entirely to his rebirth. He managed to save a tiny sum of money, enough for the most basic necessities if he was incredibly frugal. He found a small, forgotten corner of a national forest where he could park his car relatively undisturbed for longer periods. He told no one where he was going. For the next 6 months, Elias lived a life of extreme austerity and intense focus. He bought bulk supplies of rice and beans, simple food that sustained him. He bathed in cold streams. He used a solar charger for his old laptop. His car became his monastic cell, his forest surroundings, his cathedral. During the day, he studied and practiced coding, web development, and digital marketing. At night, he read by the faint glow of his laptop screen or meditated under the stars, strengthening his resolve. This period was a crucible, burning away his old self and forging a new one. The silence of the forest was profound. It allowed him to hear his own thoughts, to confront his deepest fears without distraction. He wrestled with self-doubt, with the memories of his past failures. But with each passing day, his confidence grew. His skills sharpened. He built small websites for practice, created simple apps, and developed online marketing strategies for imaginary businesses. He was his own toughest client, his own most demanding teacher. The solitude, once a source of pain, became his ally, a space for profound transformation. There were no weekends, no holidays, only a relentless drive towards his goal. He was reprogramming himself, not just his computer. He was learning the language of resilience, the syntax of success. He emerged from this period of intense isolation a different man. He was leaner, tougher, and his eyes held a new fire. He had faced the abyss and had not flinched. He was ready to re-enter the world, not as a victim, but as a creator, armed with new skills and an unbreakable spirit. The alchemist had nearly completed his work on the base metal of his past. The first drops of a new river. Returning to the periphery of the city, Elias felt like a warrior returning from a long campaign. He still lived in his car, but now it felt more like a temporary base camp than a prison. His first step was to find ways to apply his new skills. He started by offering his services on freelance platforms. He bid on small projects, building simple websites for small businesses, writing marketing copy, managing social media accounts. His prices were low, but his work was excellent. He poured all his newly acquired knowledge and his inherent design talent into every task. Slowly, the first drops of income began to trickle in. $100 here, $200 there. It was not much, but it was a fortune to him. Each payment was a validation of his efforts, a testament to his transformation. He used this money wisely, reinvesting some in better software, some in online advertising for his freelance services, and the rest for slightly better food and fuel. He worked tirelessly, often 16 hours a day from his car or the reliable quiet of the public library. His reputation for quality and reliability began to grow. One client, impressed with his work on a small website, recommended him to a larger company. This led to a more substantial project, one that required all his design and coding skills. He poured his heart and soul into it, exceeding expectations. The payment from this project was significant. It was enough for him to finally rent a small, modest room. The feeling of sleeping in a real bed, of having a door to close, a space to call his own, was an indescribable joy. It was a milestone, a tangible sign that his life was turning around. With a stable place to live and work, Elias's productivity soared. He started to build a portfolio of successful projects. Word-of-mouth referrals increased. He began to develop his own digital products, small software tools and online courses based on his learning journey. These created passive income streams, small rivers of gold that flowed even while he slept. He was no longer just trading hours for money, he was building assets. The principles he had learned in his solitary studies were now bearing fruit in the real world. Building towers of dreams. Elias's freelance work and digital products continued to grow. He was now earning a comfortable living, far more than he had in his previous job, but he had a larger vision. He saw a need in the market for a new kind of digital agency, one that combined cutting-edge technology with a deep understanding of human-centered design, his original passion. He decided to take the leap and start his own company. He used his savings, meticulously gathered, as seed capital. He found a small office space, a symbolic step up from his rented room. He named his company Phoenix Digital, a nod to his own rise from the ashes. He hired his first employee, then another. He sought out talented individuals who shared his passion and work ethic. He led by example, inspiring his team with his story and his unwavering commitment to excellence. The company quickly gained a reputation for innovation and delivering outstanding results. They landed bigger clients, more complex projects. Elias was no longer just a coder or a designer. He was a leader, an entrepreneur, building new towers of dreams. The company grew exponentially. Within a few years, Phoenix Digital was a multi-million-dollar enterprise with offices in several cities. Elias, the man who had slept in his car, was now a respected CEO. He never forgot the lessons he had learned during his darkest days: resilience, humility, and the importance of continuous learning. He fostered a company culture that valued creativity, empathy, and giving back to the community. He ensured his employees were well compensated and felt valued, creating the kind of workplace he once dreamed of. His success was not just financial, it was the fulfillment of a deep personal journey. He had faced his worst fears and overcome them. He had transformed hardship into triumph, despair into inspiration. He often looked back at the photo of the small plant growing through cracked earth, a reminder of where he started and the power of perseverance. He knew that true wealth was not just about money, it was about purpose, impact, and the ability to make a difference in the world. He was living proof that one's personal legend, if pursued with courage, could lead to extraordinary places. Sharing the harvest of the heart. With his company thriving, Elias turned his attention to a cause close to his heart. He could never forget the cold nights in his car, the gnawing hunger, the feeling of being invisible. He established the Second Chance Foundation, a non-profit organization dedicated to helping homeless individuals and those facing severe financial hardship. He knew that a little support, a guiding hand, could make all the difference. He wanted to offer others the same spark of hope that had ignited his own transformation. The foundation provided temporary shelter, food, and job training programs. It focused on teaching practical skills, much like Elias had taught himself in the library. They offered courses in digital literacy, vocational trades, and entrepreneurship. Elias personally mentored many of the participants, sharing his story and offering encouragement. He understood their struggles, their fears, and their hidden potential. He believed that everyone deserved a second chance, a path to reclaim their dignity and rebuild their lives. Phoenix Digital also played a significant role. A portion of the company's profits was channeled into the foundation. Employees were encouraged to volunteer their time and skills. They helped build websites for small businesses started by program graduates, offered mentorship, and organized fundraising events. Elias wanted his company to be more than just a successful business. He wanted it to be a force for good in the world. He showed his team that success and compassion could and should go hand in hand. Elias often visited the shelters and training centers. He would sit and talk with people, listening to their stories, offering not pity but genuine empathy and practical advice. He was no longer just a millionaire CEO. He was a beacon of hope, a testament to the power of the human spirit to overcome adversity. His journey from the depths of despair to the heights of success and then back to lift others was a complete circle. He had found his treasure, and now he was sharing its abundance with the world, proving that the greatest wealth is found in giving. For more short story videos like this one, like and comment below if you have one in mind that you would like me to create. As always, thank you for visiting the Unlimited Renewal channel. Until next time, continue to level up.